So, you just started using LinkedIn Premium. Now what? Well, on your premium company page, you noticed around 7.5 times more page engagement and 5 times more page views. Well done. And now, new clients are messaging you. All because you're using LinkedIn Premium, which helps you get the business growth you want. Think big, small business. Think big. Start your free trial at linkedin.com/premium small business. That's linkedin.com/premium small business.
Acura's all-new ADX, a compact SUV that isn't just built for one thing. It's precision-crafted for everything. To escape the grind with available all-wheel drive. To go with your flow with available Google built-in.
Hey Google, turn it up.
Okay, turning up the volume. And crafted to be heard with an available Bang & Olufsen premium sound system. The all-new Acura ADX, crafted to match your energy. Acura, precision-crafted performance.
Take your vibes and go.
Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
You know, Rev, given all that's going on in the world, we thought that we need to have someone who has a very informed perspective and someone who can step back, look at all of the issues of the day, and teach us about what he sees happening in our world. And I'm talking about Jonathan Wachtel, who's a global affairs analyst, former communications director for Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley, a familiar face on so many different networks, and someone who's extremely erudite, has great insight, intelligence, and we're privileged to have him on the show. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you, Rabbi. I hope I don't blow it here.
well, if we stop right here, Jonathan, you're safe.
At that intro, is there a disclaimer?
Let's not go any further, Jonathan. Leave it right here. Jonathan, Rev and I were talking, and we find, with individuals, if you love a person, you don't want to criticize. If you don't like a person, you don't want to commend. Looking back at the first 100 days and what is happening in our world, I think you can be fair. And that's something hard to find these days. You want fairness. Let's look at the globe, focus on certain areas, and give us your thoughts on it. There was an article I read recently about Ukraine, and it said that our negotiator is not fully prepared to go into those negotiations with Putin because he goes in alone, doesn't have anybody else with him. Putin comes in with his aides, and he says you can't negotiate with the Russians if you're not on the same level as the Russians. How accurate is that statement?
That is as accurate as can be. The basic truth is some of the toughest negotiators you will ever end up squaring off with are the Russians. Their diplomatic corps is super educated, super loyal to their system, despite its flaws. An autocratic place, something that we Americans have a hard time stomaching. There, it's allegiance, a lot of it based on fear, but fear is a great motivator. And you negotiate on behalf of your country, and you go hard, and you strategize, and you go into those meetings predicting every sort of weakness, every sort of frailty, every sort of leverage point that you can make with your counterpart. Are we doing the same? Big, big question.
Interesting. Why would we have that kind of disparity? Why would the other side come in with a team and we go in alone?
The strategy that the Trump administration would have on this, I'm not in the room right now. I don't know what the thinking is behind this, but thinking that if you can have a direct channel would be my thought, that there's that motivation, a single point of communication, then you don't have the difficulty of different opinions coming in, having to grapple with that, the possibility of leaks, perhaps sensitive stuff being discussed that having a bigger group coming in might not be prudent for whatever reasons would be behind that. Frankly speaking, going in to negotiate with the Russians, going in to negotiate with the Chinese, coming in to negotiate with the Iranians, any group like that in which you have this motivation that is extraordinary on the other side, in which if you screw up on the other side, you're literally a dead man or imprisoned, or something can go woefully wrong. And in some cases, things could happen to your family and loved ones. you're going to be approaching negotiations and patriotism in ways that have underpinnings that are much more intense than we Americans going in to talk.
Jonathan, I had two questions for you. One regarding China. How do we understand the criticism, strong criticism from President Trump concerning China, and yet the ongoing business relationship that we have with China? I cannot tell you how many packages are being delivered by Amazon, and it says made in China or originated in China. How do we understand that as the American public?
Well, first of all, it depends on when the boot's going to fall, the shoe's going to fall in terms of when that supply chain is going to be disrupted, Reverend. So I don't think we're there. We're beginning to see signs of real problems happening in the construction market, for instance, housing. You'll begin reading anecdotes of pain that's happening in different sectors, toy companies, some of the sectors in which there's so much a dependence on Chinese products, and there had been such a surge in purchasing of these products before the tariffs kicked in, and still there's stuff in the supply chain to be delivering that we're just not feeling it yet. When that moment comes, it depends on the sector, depends on the product. But we're going to begin seeing it, and there'll be an increasing number of headlines in the news media about disruptions. And then, this conversation will be potentially in a completely different place, even in a fairly short amount of time.
But how do we understand these tariffs? Because it's presented as though it's punishing other countries, but at the end of the day, the American consumer is the one who is stressed by these things, because it means that they're going to pay higher prices for imports from China or some of these other countries.
Yeah, the goal of the president is that we would wean ourselves off of this reliance on third parties to be producing things that we should be producing in the United States, especially critical items. And to be, let's say you and I were sponsoring a building that's going to be going up in Manhattan, we had priced everything up, and according to how much, some of the rebarb and some of the insulation and wiring and other things that would be going into that building, we priced that out, and the lion's share of those items that are going to go into that building are manufactured in China. So as a result of that, your premium could be suddenly, you and I could be facing building costs that would be 40% higher than you and I had calculated, and that project is going to get shut down. There's no way that our financing is going to be able to recover that. So the goal with these tariffs is, yes, to try to, at least speaking from the perspective of what the president and his administration has been saying, is to try to get America to begin becoming a manufacturing country again, as our history had been, and to stop this sort of disproportionate reliance on China and other countries that has implications in terms of our national security, but also our prowess as an economy. The problem is manufacturing plants need to be built. It's expensive. So you need the infrastructure to be able to meet the demand. And we do not have the infrastructure to meet the demand right now.
Isn't it more expensive for these products to be manufactured in the U.S.? That's why companies went overseas in the first place, right?
That's exactly right. So in an effort to be more cost effective, the labor force in China is multiple times less expensive. So it's expedient to outsource this and bring it in and carry on as if there's everything okay, and you build your building and there's no worry. Well, look out. We're heading into uncharted territory because we have a country. It's not like the old days where you and I would go out with our saw and axe and we'd chop down a tree and carry the timber in and give it to the mill in our neighborhood, and then you and I would nail it together. That's not the world we live in.
And we're talking with Jonathan Wachtel, renowned, respected global affairs analyst. And before the break, Jonathan, I was asking you, what leverage do we have Because as many will tell you, the Chinese need us. We need them, but they need us.
There's total truth to that. We're a massive cash cow for the Chinese. In many ways, we have turned China into what was a major player on the world stage, but the second most powerful economic nation on the face of the earth. They're right under us. Well, not right under us. There's significant distance between us, but their economy is massive. And in large part, thanks to you and me and everybody else who's been buying the made-in-China products that the Reverend was talking about a short time ago.
Wow. So we have strength, they have strength, and it's a standoff. So if you're looking from afar at the tariffs policy, where have we succeeded? Have we brought anybody to the table, negotiated anything?
We've had some success with certain countries taking a change in their policy, but in terms of the standoff with the Chinese, we're right in the middle of a tariff war. So there's no sign of this ending in the immediate future. So we're in this sort of wait to see who's going to blink first type of scenario. In the meantime, we're waiting to see how this is going to impact us in terms of the supply chain and whether there'll be inflationary aspects, some sort of reverberations that will be rather painful when it comes to certain manufacturing products, certain products in general, things that we're used to buying, picking that toy off the shelf for Christmas and Hanukkah and whatever celebration. We may be finding that toy is not available anymore. Just too much. It's just it's out of range. And the company that was doing that, the U.S. company involved, they may have gone under, or they just have changed their posture and just not going to be there anymore. And in terms of what's happening to the Chinese in this situation, they're actively trying to find other markets to sell to in the interim. When it comes to our soybean farmers selling soybeans to China, well, that's not happening now. So the Chinese are looking for other sources of soybeans, or are they going to grow more soybeans within their own country? China's not a little country. They have different climate zones and abilities, and they can certainly adapt in certain ways to be able to ride out whatever's happening here. The basic truth is that the Chinese people, and I'm not saying American people aren't resilient. We're very resilient people and used to going through a lot in terms of economic downturns and difficulties that we encounter as people. But the Chinese are used to getting through more, suffering more. The wealth that's amassed, the Chinese who have made it into, wealth, or at least middle of the road, are relatively new. The country used to be largely a poor country in terms of the population and GDP. It's a different world now. So, if you talk to an elderly Chinese person, they remember hard times, and they're used to going through that. Now, whether the younger generation has the stomach to go through a period of austerity that they may face in China because they're having to adjust to things that they're not able to get access to the U.S. market like they used to do, and now they're clamoring to try to figure out different revenue streams, as it were, different places to trade with, because the world is a big place and there are other options to them. That's taking time, obviously, and how quickly they can get their act together and be able to get back to some sort of level of normalcy in which they don't feel the pinch of the U.S. economy out of their pocketbooks. That remains to be seen.
Jonathan, I'm a history buff, and I remember reading about the Marshall Plan that was signed by President Harry Truman back in 1948. And after World War II, the U.S. really set the global order. It seems that President Trump is rolling that back and changing our relationship with the global order. And are we leading it anymore? What's your response to that?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of concerns out there that the U.S. dollar's position in the world could be unseated. We've been the gold standard. Currencies around the globe use us, and we're kind of the gold standard. and the U.S. dollar. There's been an effort by the very adversary that we're taking on now with this trade war, China. They're part of the BRICS group of Russia, Brazil. India is actually a partner of that, and other countries that are not wanting the U.S. dollar to have that dominance in world affairs and economics. And there's the argument that you'll hear from economists and policymakers that we're running the risk of accelerating the decline of the U.S. dollar in what's happening right now. There are concerns that go beyond that in terms of trade, as I was talking about earlier. Where is China going to go? Well, it's a big world. There are other markets. The European market is certainly larger in terms of population than the U.S. market. There can be doubling down on trying to make Europe a better partner in terms of trade and leveraging that some more. And other parts of the world in which you have large populations. The Arab world is, 400 million people. That's bigger than the U.S. population. Other parts of the world where certainly China can put more energy in terms of trying to sell their goods and try to establish stronger links and try to make up for the deficit that they'll be feeling from the U.S. departing.
If you're having problems with your septic system and you're tired of spending so much money each year to have it pumped, then SeptiClean is the answer for you. SeptiClean is an advanced specially formulated blend of bacteria used in the treatment of home and commercial septic systems. The breakdown of waste in your system relies on biological activity of naturally occurring bacteria. SeptiClean restores the natural biological process in your septic system and boosts the existing biological activity. SeptiClean is completely safe on all plumbing and can help prevent expensive emergencies in pumping. SeptiClean has approximately 6 to 100 times the bacteria count of other leading off-the-shelf brands in a 1-year supply. SeptiClean comes in a water-soluble pack, which you flush down the toilet once a month with no mess or stress. Save time, money, and maintenance on your septic system. Find SeptiClean at Emporium True Value Hardware on Main Street in Sag Harbor or visit micro-tab.com. That's micro-tabb.com. Micro-tabb.com.
Are you a forward thinker? Then you need an HR and finance platform that thinks like you do. Workday is the AI platform that helps propel your organization, your workforce, and your industry into the future. Workday, moving business forever forward.
Clorox Sentiva smells like grapefruit. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like
Okay, we could be here all day. Try Clorox Sentiva for a trusted clean with long-lasting freshness. Also available in lavender and coconut. Use as directed.
Faraday presenta Ojos con Alergia y Picazón contra el jardinero. Y el ganador es Faraday Extra Fuerte. Para aliviar la picazón de los ojos por alergia, actúa más rápido y supera a Claritin y Flonase aún a las 24 horas. Faraday, adelante.
Yeah.
So let me engage your prophetic imagination, Jonathan. How much time do we have before it shows up in the life of the American consumer, where we're once again loading up on toilet paper because prices are about to become sky high, go sky high? How much time do we have?
Yeah, so disclaimer here, I'm not an economist, but from what seems to be happening, and I mentioned earlier, that already the construction housing market is feeling the pinch. We are going to start seeing different sectors feel this, and if that sector has a lot of dependence on Chinese products, we're going to see it first there. And it is already happening in construction, and it's already starting to show up in toys and other Chinese products. Depending on what it is, it's gonna start showing up some more, and it depends on where we're getting those products from. Certain industries we don't rely on the Chinese. But there are components that are made in China, and Rev, you said it. You see it everywhere, made in China. Well, where that made in China is, that's a weak link for us. So we're going to have to see how that weak link plays out in terms of the other products that are made on the basis of that made in China, whether it's a circuit board or whatever you're looking at that has that made in China thing, you're used to saying, well, where is that device used in manufacturing within the U.S.? Or is it a complete toy, a lava lamp, or whatever it is that you're buying off the shelf? If it's completely made in China, it's going to become increasingly a rarity, and it's all supply and demand, and we'll see it play out in real color.
Jonathan, let's look at Iran. We've been down this road before. We've had an agreement that was somewhat defective. There was a sunset clause where at a certain point Iran could continue to develop their nuclear program. And now we're hearing there's new negotiations, and yet we say at the same time Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. Do you think there's an agreement that can take place that can fully enforce that? Or is the reality, as some are predicting, that it's going to take a strike against Iran to bring that program to an end?
The answer to your question, Rabbi, is really up to the Iranians. If they're willing to let go of their nuclear program, certainly their weapons dynamic aspect of their program, which was identified by the United Nations IAEA back in the day, and then that led to negotiations to try to get the Iranians to stop with their pursuit of the A-bomb. If they're willing to allow inspectors in, they're willing to stop enrichment to levels that enable the creation of a bomb so rapidly, and in fact, multiple bombs, they have enough stockpile and ability to do it, then it's possible. But if the Iranians are really wanting to play this game of hide and seek, the deal that you're talking about, which was called the JCPOA, the nuclear deal that was worked out between the great powers of the Security Council of the United Nations and Iran, that had a lot of gaps in it. There were sites within Iran that were off limits to inspectors from the IAEA, so they had no idea what's going on there and whether there's activity. Even today, we don't know what's going on there. I mean, we have spies. We have some level of understanding that's coming through and reported on, but really there's a lot unknown there other than a recognition that Iran is indeed enriching the uranium at levels that make the creation of weapons quite possible within range. In fact, there are some intelligence experts who say they already have nuclear weapons. So it is something in which, we can shout as loud as we want and want them to do something, and you can have something on paper, but unless there's a way to verify that they're not doing what scares the living heck out of us, there's nothing we can do here. So truly, it depends on whether the Iranians are going to give us access, give the international community access, and really come clean on things. And
Jonathan, go ahead.
Sorry, if you're a believer in past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior, I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah. It raises the question because there are quite a few individuals who believe that Iran is a greater threat than China, that China simply wants its place as an influencer on the world stage. But the motivations behind Iran are serious and more problematic than the motivations of China. How do you respond to that?
I think there's a truth to both arguments there when it comes to Iran and China. When it comes to Iran, that government was founded on throwing out the previous government with which the United States had enjoyed some good relations. And it was taken over by a fundamentalist Islamist clergy. It's a theocracy there. And they do not rule as you and I see our leaders, though we do have some weirdos in government sometimes. But they,
want to name any of them? No.
But they have, they have a totally different system. It's autocratic as can be. They're cruel to their own population. If there's any dissent, they kill them. They actually kill opponents. They're happily throwing people in jail. They have levels of enacting punishment that are just grotesque. And they have the highest number of killings of people, in terms of executions of any country in terms of statistics on the face of the earth. So they're not a friendly regime. Now, in terms of danger, well, if you have a government like that has wreaked havoc across the Middle East and the Saudi Arabian Peninsula, what we've seen with the Houthis, all the way into Lebanon with Hezbollah, in Gaza and the West Bank with supporting Hamas and Islamic Jihad, attempts to destabilize Jordan, what they've done within Iraq with their Shia militias that have been absolutely murderous towards the Kurdish population and other opponents. They've been horrible. So if you give a government like that nuclear weapons, that is scary as can be. Yeah. Now, the Chinese are already a nuclear power. We're still at war technically with China. I mean, we had an armistice in North Korea and South Korea to put an end to the Korean conflict, but we're still at war with China. There was never a total settlement of that conflict. And we have historically had an adversarial relationship with China, and we've kind of been willfully blind about it. But, they would love to be number one. And at present, we're number one, and they really don't like that. And they want to be number one, and they're working to be number one. So both of them arguably are a threat to the United States. Maybe even in equal measure. One seems to be more erratic in terms of their behavior and this militancy of what we've seen play out with Iran.
Jonathan, it's no wonder that people seek you out for your knowledge, and you've really you've informed us on things we need to know because it impacts all of us. So thank you. John?
If you're having problems with your septic system and you're tired of spending so much money each year to have it pumped, then SeptiClean is the answer for you. SeptiClean is an advanced specially formulated blend of bacteria used in the treatment of home and commercial septic systems. The breakdown of waste in your system relies on biological activity of naturally occurring bacteria. SeptiClean restores the natural biological process in your septic system and boosts the existing biological activity. SeptiClean is completely safe on all plumbing and can help prevent expensive emergencies in pumping. SeptiClean has approximately 6 to 100 times the bacteria count of other leading off-the-shelf brands in a 1-year supply. SeptiClean comes in a water-soluble pack, which you flush down the toilet once a month with no mess or stress. Save time, money, and maintenance on your septic system. Find SeptiClean at Emporium True Value Hardware on Main Street in Sag Harbor or visit micro-tab.com. That's micro-tabb.com. Micro-tabb.com.